It seems right now, even more than many other times, that our world is kind of full of chaos. Every time you turn on the news lately, there's a new disaster. Something new to show us that the world is just not right. There's something in us that tells us that the way our world is just not how it's supposed to be. And it's hard for us to find hope. If you listen to what the news tells us, it tries to make us feel afraid. It tells us that everything is out to get us. We can't be safe. Something has to be done. But that's the exact opposite message to the one that we hear in Isaiah today. Comfort, comfort my people. These words of Isaiah's are written to a people in need of that kind of comfort. It's written to the folk who are in the middle of the exile to Babylon. People who have seen their entire world conquered, their houses taken, their goods confiscated, and them shipped away from their homes to a place that they are more or less slaves. For the people of Isaiah, they're trapped. They have no good news. Now, they had seen some things happen. Some of them are probably old enough to remember the ways that God had worked. How the very chapter before in Isaiah, God helps King Hezekiah to throw off the Assyrians, who were the people that were oppressing them at the time. But it wasn't very long after Hezekiah's death that the people turned away from God again, and, well, they end up going away. But an interesting thing happened during Hezekiah's reign. Hezekiah had fell ill at one point. He prayed to God that he would be healed, and he was. And as celebration of Hezekiah's miraculous healing, some envoys from a little place nobody had ever heard of called Babylon showed up. And Hezekiah, so excited about being healed and having a promise from God that he would have 15 more years of his life, and that no one would invade Israel again in his lifetime, he showed these envoys from Babylon everything. There was nothing in Hezekiah's palace or in all his kingdom that Hezekiah did not show them, Isaiah writes. When Isaiah found out about this, he more or less went to Hezekiah and said, you know those envoys that you just showed all of your wealth to? Yeah, in a couple generations, they'll be back, and they're going to take all that. And that's exactly what happened. During Hezekiah's great-grandson Jehoiakim's reign, the Babylonians show up, they take all the people, all the stuff, and destroy the temple of God. That's the place where the people hearing this message now are. Comfort, comfort my people? You'd almost think they'd laugh at that. What comfort is there? Because for 70 years, God's people were without a home. They were without a place to worship. They were oppressed by the people that had conquered them. But you have to think a few of them heard those words as they were meant to be heard. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. In the midst of the chaos that they were in, they had to find comfort. They had to find good news of something better, of a future where God will tend his flock like a shepherd, where he will gather lambs into his arms and carry them close to his heart. Now, for the people of the exile, this promise was fulfilled at least somewhat when it was decreed that the exiles could return to their homes after the end of the 70-year exile. They were able to resettle, to rebuild the temple, but it didn't last very long, because years later, the Greeks show up under Alexander. Then after that, just when the Jewish people had won their independence again, the Romans showed up under Pompey. And through it all, the people needed to remember these words, comfort, comfort. And comfort came to them. First, they heard the voice of one calling in the desert, John the Baptist, proclaiming that God was going to do something new. John told them of someone who was greater than him, and John wasn't even worthy to untie this man's shoes. Jesus came to reveal God's glory to the world for all mankind to see, fulfilling that part of Isaiah's prophecy, but there's still a ways to go. We still need to lean on this comfort that God gives us. We need the hope that we have in Christ. We need to remember the promise that when everything goes to chaos around us, that in God there is comfort. But there's more than just the comfort that God brings us in that passage. You see, there's two ways to take comfort my people. There's the rest that God gives us during these times of chaos, but in another sense, you could read this as God telling the people, comfort my people. A little bit later in Isaiah, it says, you who bring good tidings to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout. Lift it up, do not be afraid. Say to the towns of Judah, here is your God. God doesn't just bring us comfort, he also challenges us to comfort others with the same comfort we have received. In the funeral service, there's a line in the prayers. Comfort us in our sorrows so that we can comfort others in their sorrows with the consolation we ourselves have received from God. So when we hear these words, comfort my people, we have to remember both sides of it. God is declaring comfort for us. But he's also saying, and comfort others. God says to the people of the exile, comfort, comfort. To those awaiting the Messiah, God says, comfort, comfort. And today he still says, comfort my people. Not just for our own good, but so that we in turn can help others when the chaos swirls around them. We're the ones that God will use to show his people that we are like lambs in his arms as he carries us, leads us, and comforts us. And then we in turn carry, lead, and comfort others.